Hey, what's going on, everyone? So, as you can see, I've been pretty quiet of late, especially in regards to the recent PS5 event. And if I'm being honest, after that event, something happened to me. I think mentally I crumbled for a few days. All desire to make videos and even play games, just left me. I had moments where I even felt like quitting my channel, and this was mostly to do with the number of videos I watched of other people's reactions to their PlayStation 5 event. Some were thrilled with what they saw, others thought it was pretty limp. Conversation went in a number of directions, based off things like how the console looked. No price tag, no release dates, but I suppose out of all those reactions, one that seemingly got to me the most, I suppose out of all the comments, was the ones that commented on the variety of games that were shown. Now I actually recorded my live reaction to this event, and also had a bunch of close friends on microphone with me. Our general feel after the event was that this wasn't a next gen console reveal. It was a PS4 event with a PlayStation 5 shown at the end. Of course, that was somewhat of an exaggeration of the event, but there was also a lot of truth behind it. What we saw in many cases looked visually stunning. I mean, this is what new consoles generally bring, right? Better looking games. That's been the same since the start of gaming. So although many games look like they could happily run on a PS4, there were a few exceptions that stood out. But in real terms, of the PS4 comparison, we were seeing gameplay for the most part that was nothing new. Games that have been tackled before, and art styles that have been tackled before. Now, like I said, I think the next generation of gaming consoles, just overall, just visually and everything, it's going to be incredible. I think games are going to look absolutely staggering, and Ratchet and Clank, had this moments where you're like, wow, this looks incredible, like a cartoon, incredible. But we also need to be realists. Of course, we can't. I can't expect new genres, art styles, and gameplay to be as common as your average game release. And unfortunately, the industry has somewhat peaked in that respect. And that's mostly due to the directions consoles have gone in for the most part, I feel. I done a video where I said, now that we know what the PlayStation 5 and Series X controllers look like, innovation will have to come from somewhere else in game design, because those controllers won't change anything. And I think now that we've seen a list of the initial flurry of new titles that are coming for both these platforms, we're in a somewhat similar generation of games, and we that we currently had with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. But of course these are early days, so I don't want to completely throw the PS5 and Series X under the bus just yet in terms of the type of games that we'll be getting. But after the PS5 event, my mind went into a strange place. And, I think it kind of started, recently, with the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, because this was the first generation where I hadn't owned every single major console, and I skipped on the PlayStation, on the Xbox One, this generation. Or perhaps, just in part, the current, my mind, perhaps it was, just the current state of the world and being locked at home, isn't helping, but it's not the first time where video games have, I suppose, affected me emotionally and put me in funny moods. People talk about variety in gaming today, and of course, it's there when you look for it. So I was asking myself, why is this making me want to step away from everything for a while? I couldn't quite pin it down. Why did this event continue to bug the crap out of me and put me in a pretty miserable mood? Funnily enough, I suppose it just took one game in many ways to bring clarity to my gaming woes, as I put it. That game was Outrun 2 from Sega. You know, I want you just for a few seconds to just listen to this. You know, just bear with me a few seconds, and I'll explain afterwards. So, you know, headphones on, please, people. So what does it all boil down to for me? Japan, Japanese gaming, and of course this all also boils down to what you consider to be video games, the heart and soul of what you fell in love with, and also what attracts you to certain platforms, gaming platforms, and how you feel about those platforms over a generation. As you may know, I've been gaming for 33 years now. My first console was the BBC Micro. Then, of course, I grew up on, even though I played Atari and Sega, I really grew up on Sega and Nintendo, and also lived in the arcades, and this was the era where Japan were in full control, for the most part, of the direction of not just hardware, but also video games. Then the first console I ever bought out of my own money was the PlayStation 1. I had my Sega Saturn before that, but the PlayStation 1 was the first one I could afford out of my own hard-earned cash. A lot of people think I'm just being nostalgic when I rate the PlayStation 1 as the best console platform in terms of software from Sony, but if you want to talk diversity, then that's the era I drag everyone back to. In debates, because it was also the last era where, in my opinion, where Japan were in full control of where games were going, because the generation after that changed everything, and it's never been more clear than in this current generation, and also in what was shown at the Series X and the PS5 reveal events. So I ask you, what games sounded like Outrun at these events? None is the easy answer, and then you might ask, what does that matter? It matters to me because this, to me, is what video games sound like, what video games feel like, what the core of video games sound and feel like to me. Why, I suppose you ask? Because I lived through the era where Japanese gaming ruled the world, and where Western gaming came in from a different angle, and one that never over-dominated, but still left its mark, amongst the colour, excitement, diversity, vibrance, madness and fun of Japanese gaming when it was at its height. There was none of this at the PlayStation 5 event whatsoever. I even remember saying that at the Series X event that I was glad to see some Japanese amongst everything that was shown. When Namco, turned up with that Scarlet Nexus game, amongst all of the other Western style games that was shown at that reveal event. Western gaming has taken over a lot of what I consider gaming to fundamentally be at its very core. Some people are fine with this. I'm fine with a number of games and genres made by Western developers, and to be clear, I suppose I dislike using the words, Western, but here we are, right? And some of my favorite games ever, are made by Western developers, where I just quickly spit out Diablo 2 or World of Warcraft, StarCraft, all from Blizzard, Half-Life and Mass Effect, as an example. But the PlayStation 1 was a console forged into history by Japanese gaming. which means the PS brand is somewhat what it is because of Japanese style gaming. Not much from Sony themselves first party wise, although they did deliver one or two gems on the PlayStation 1. But as with every Sony platform, they are primarily remembered by their third party support in terms of diversity, mix and influence. Japan was the forerunner and the West supported. The balance was perfect in my opinion. Now that the balance has completely shifted, and although Japanese gaming is here, producing quality titles, in some areas, it's not the same Japan that used to be around, and there's no argument to be had in that respect, in my opinion. I just think it's night and day. We've said for a long time that both Sony and Microsoft have created somewhat gated ecosystems that have stifled and even made some genres disappear from their platforms, or even perhaps rejected to the sidelines as being unfit to appear next to the now dominant genres that sell the most and appeal the most to modern gamers, and also help build, and I suppose these games help build those ecosystems to what they are. And it's not just genres, but it's visual style, and gameplay style as well. I saw in my opinion, Sony's best first party studio crumble into dust, and no one even batted an eyelid. That studio being Team Ico, in my opinion, Sony's best and most unique studio. Outside of perhaps collaborations they had with that game company who done like Journey and stuff like that, who also are no longer make exclusives under the Sony umbrella. The PS5 event depressed me because I struggled to see video games there. The video games that I know and love, in terms of feels. But then I started to feel that during the PlayStation 2 era. Certainly felt it during the PlayStation 3 era, and it became utterly dominant during the PS4 era, where it was clear that the focus was on very specific IPs and genres, and anything else that might have been different was ignored sales-wise. Everything now has to feel epic, gritty, moody, Western, Hollywood in its approach, and that was even felt when watching Resident Evil 8 and Square's brief reveal of Project Athia, I think it was called, which, like I said, don't get me wrong, these games looked stunning, but that Resident Evil 8 isn't Capcom to me. If I think back to the Capcom that everyone fell in love with, back during the PlayStation 1, back during the Dreamcast, it's night and day, people. And it's the same for Square. It's just night and day in my opinion. They are vastly different companies. People wonder why I praise Nintendo games so much. Perhaps they are the one of the last bastions against the dominance of Western style gaming upon the game landscape, and whatever Western influences they might feel or desire. They are very selective and direct, and ensure that the unique style of Japanese gaming isn't lost and remains at the forefront of how their games play and feel. Which is also perhaps why they are arguably the one Japanese studio that has survived with their essences still intact over all these years. And while I'll take a Breath of the Wild over any movie-looking game that comes out of the house of Sony or Microsoft or their partners or wherever, people say Zelda is influenced by Western open-world games. I somewhat disagree, even if the developers did look to games like Skyrim and stuff in terms of scope, whatever. But Breath of the Wild still at its heart is such a Japanese game in both gameplay, in both feels, in both aesthetics. And you'll know that if you play Breath of the Wild and then go and play The Witcher or something like that. It's just night and day. This has been this is what's put me off doing talking about it, because I was so negative. I was so negative when when we shouldn't be negative about video games right now. Given the world You know, given the state of the world right now, we should be grabbing onto as much of this entertainment, you know, this carefree entertainment as we can. You know, but it was hard. You know, I don't hate video games. You know, I don't hate video games, and I haven't fallen in out of love with them. You know, it's just clear that the direction has changed. You know, for better or for worse. You know, clearly for worse. You know, based off my thoughts here. You know, but changed nonetheless. So, am I excited about the PlayStation 5? No. You know, not in the slightest. You know, the PlayStation brand has changed. Some preferred it. I don't. And I've owned every single PlayStation console. I was there for the PS2 launch. The PS2 is actually the only console I have bought at launch. You know, I couldn't get the PS1 straight away, couldn't afford it, and I was deep in my Saturn. Got the PS2 at launch. PS3 I didn't buy at launch because I was an expensive beast, and you know, I started falling into that. What do they have here that's enticing at launch? You know, let's go back to the PS3 launch and remember that. And the PlayStation 4 launch was exactly the same. You know, but I've still bought every PlayStation console because you know it's still gaming, and I need to go. I need video games. You know. You know, but I suppose, are there still games that I'm interested in, you know, that was shown at the PlayStation, 5 launch? Of course, you know, of course, you know, and, you know, at the end of the day, I'm still a gamer. Always will be, you know, always will be, people. But, you know, gaming has changed. And I think, you know, when these new generations come around, you know, sometimes, you know, it's going to take time. And it took time. With all these consoles to show what they were about and what they're going to be about, but also over these generations we've kind of seen what Sony consoles are starting to be about, and it's not quite it's not there for me anymore. So I need to dig deep into the libraries. I need to find the gems. I need to find the video games that feel like video games to me, and sometimes that's starting to take more time now. But yeah, you know, I needed to do this video, otherwise I didn't feel like I could move on with my channel. Even though my channel, I try to make as diverse as possible about video games. So yeah, you know, those are my thoughts, people. I'll get back into the flow now. Now this is out of the way, I'll get back into the flow. So yeah, you know, thanks for listening as always. Take care all, and peace.
Let's go.